Ben here with Studio on the Lake. So, uh, I had a pup, Augie. He just passed away 3 weeks ago. He had a lot of issues. He was a rescue from Texas, but he decided to chew this greavy up. So let's go ahead and repair it. It's was one of my favorite carvings. So that's as far as we're going to go in this video. In the next video, in actuality, I'm not going to show you the burning on the head. So don't try this at home. This is highly dangerous. I've been doing it for years, kind of like a welder, playing with the same tool. You get used to it and how you touch it on something. Okay, so there you go. Don't try this at home. But I just flattened those edges. I knocked the tail back where it was chewed up so that I can set some different pieces in there. So here's a piece of basswood. It's a scrap piece. And it's a little too wide for the head, but we'll cut that down. So not using any reference here. I know that drives some of you nuts. I am going to leave about a quarter inch on the bottom there. I'm going to add that to the head because I want to be able to have a little bit of room to cut that back down. So drawn from memory, greabies have little short beaks. Well, little being an operative word, they're pretty healthy beak for the size of the bird. So drawing out the profile, and I'll take this over to the bandsaw and shoot that. A lot of you have asked for, obviously you see there's a center line in there. That's about how wide I want it initially to start. A lot of you have asked to see the bandsaw. To me that's kind of boring, but I'll set up something over there, another camera, and do some shooting. So there's the head. I like it. Hey, you got to give a shout out to Gene Messer. Gene's said some kind words in the last several weeks about the channel. And thank you, Gene. I have nothing but respect for you, man. Yeah. So, but here's a tribute. I can actually use a knife. This is not one of my good knives. My two good knives, for some reason, are in the house, and I'm out in the stuga. But this knife here, I stropped it up, and it's easier to use a knife sometimes to cut these profiles in. So here's a live version.
I made a Major General attached to the British military mission in France at the beginning of the war, in a liaison role between us and the French. I much enjoyed it.
Or a position within the Board of Trade.
Well, what kind of position?
Helping promote Britain's economic interests abroad.
Yes.
The right man in the right position could contribute so much to Britain's economy, helping reach our much needed goal of and I'm the star, and the mad.
All right, so what you saw there was saber-tooth burr. It's a green one. They're more aggressive. They make a red one, which is more aggressive than that. But that was in my Oz 2 Plus, which is a real nice handpiece. You see in here I'm marking. I'm going to take that out. You'll notice later on that I forget to take that portion out. But it still works because I'm able to work the head on the bird itself and not having a pattern here. You kind of keep taking stuff away till it looks right. I'm drawing the center lines on. Kind of my standard process. I will go ahead and put those back on reference lines. Some of the reference lines I'll draw will be for your benefit if you're trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. Others are for my benefit to keep me going, and they do help me with the flow of feathers and that sort of thing. And obviously, heads are symmetrical. So, hey, looks like Jordy Johnson's back. That's excellent, excellent news. Because if it could happen to him, it could happen to any of us, obviously. Say hello to people out there. Hey, Pixie Moose, hi. We got Just Carve Rob. Just Carve Rob has been posting pretty regularly. We got Mark the Maker. Sticks and Stones. Kevin's over there doing great work. You should go check his stuff out. And as always, go with the godfather, the guy that started all this stuff, Gene Messer. Nothing but respect, Gene. So back to the Oz 2. I'm cutting away. You saw I glued that on there. I put that on there with some 5-minute epoxy. And I didn't show you. I didn't peg it with the bigger decoys. I'll put a peg in there to help that. Generally, a screw, and I'll show you how I do that. But this has 5-minute epoxy on it. I was too lazy to wait for it, so I put 5-minute epoxy in the center, and then a ring around the outside of it of super glue, and I shot that with accelerator. So that holds it on there initially, so I can play around and give the epoxy time to set. So I'm taking all the excess down. I'm trying not to cut into the body too much. I'm going to have to at some point. I'm drawing the center lines back in, and I'm kind of liking the shape. It's nice, as opposed to having this mounted. It's a little small, but a lot of times you'll see a ball vise or something, and carvers will stick it in there, and that's all fine and dandy if you're working from a defined pattern or you're making the same bird 100 times. But this works out nice because you're working in the round. You can turn it around in your hands. You can check different angles and whatnot.
That is our fate. But we need not be unchristian ones.
Again, here you see it's easier to work with the knife. I can get long, flat planes, which I'm trying to get for that beak.
For being unable.
Keep in mind that wood carving is one of the subtractive arts. You can't really put it back as easily as a chunk of clay. You can grab another ball of clay and meld it back on there. You can do the same thing with wood, but you get into joinery and that sort of stuff. So, but it's subtractive. Once you take it away, you can't put it back. So each cut should be deliberate. You can see I'm turning this all around to keep it symmetrical. I guess now that we got Jordy back up, looks like my woes of computer stuff, I'm still learning this thing. It took me about an hour to work through getting the sound to work on this. I record on DaVinci, or edit on DaVinci Resolve, and I use a microphone that goes through that, and my new computer and the microphone were not getting along. In fact, all the sound settings. In fact, that was the problem with my old computer, was the sound was starting to die on it, and that's why you saw some glitches in the middle of the last several videos. But I'll get my act together here. So eat your heart out, you guys out there, knife carvers. I can actually carve with a knife. It's actually relaxing. What you hear in the background, I left a little live in there. You can figure out the show. I'm going to have to check and see if this gets a copyright hit for that playing in the background. I don't think it does or will, because it doesn't have the meta tag data on it. You know what I mean? If I were to pull that down off the web, it would have the meta tag data in there, and subject to get a copyright hit. But incidental playing in the background, I don't think that's a problem. We'll see. So he's looking pretty good. He's getting that greeby look about him.
One good thing that we all have in common.
Which is?
You. And the
And you can see I'm just taking
heroic
small slices
way
off of
you
here.
kicked that wretched
It's kind of a unique knife. It's quite worn out. It's been sharpened so many times over the years. It's kind of a long, thin silhouette kind of blade now.
Protected your country, and you protected the reputation of your family. Not to mention success.
So there you have that part. And it's coming down. I'm not going to show you how I set the eyes. These eyes I just set in with some, I didn't use epoxy to set these eyes. I used super glue, and I cut the socket so tight that the eye is kind of pressed in. So you're not going to learn much here. When you mark your eyes, you can see I'm checking it out to see where the eye needs to go. Typically, it's just slightly above the beak, and then you do both sides symmetrical. I'll take sometimes 2 push pins and put one in each side, and then move them around. Because a lot of times you'll put the eyes in, and you got one that's got a wonky eye, which is not necessarily a problem, because typically you don't look at your carvings from the head-on view as they're coming right at you. You're typically looking at some sort of a side angle, and you only catch one side at a time. You'd be surprised at how many positions on these eyes that you can get away with. So now you see I'm kind of penciling in the lines where I want the feather flow on this guy to go. And I haven't really defined the beak yet. So once I get these in, I'm going to put in my Oz 2 Plus at about 40,000. I'm going to put a little diamond ball. And I'm working in kind of I'm laying a feather groove down. And I'm going to come back and burn. But at the same time, I'm using this to define the little bumps and whatnot. So this is 2 times the speed. The eye is actually set. It just happens to have dust on it. I run a little, the camera is over my left shoulder. On the camera stand is a little battery operated fan with 2 speeds. I use it to blow this dust away from me and over in the corner, and then I'll run the shot back later and catch that. And on occasion, I forget to turn the fan on, and you'll be able to see that, the dust building up. I've been doing this for years. The dust doesn't seem to bother me. Knock on wood. And thankfully, there's a lot of wood around. So now I'm doing the same thing with the detail work up around the eye and the top of the head. And then I'm not going to show you in this video because I wanted to take a little bit of time and let you see kind of the whole process. And then I'm trying to add in the editing a little bit more of the environment before it's been kind of sterile and I sit in the background. I've been trying to get out to the studio or the stuga every morning. Really looking forward to the spring. The priority now that I've retired is to get the studio built, and I'm really looking forward to getting that going. This guy's looking pretty good. So that's as far as we're going to take it in this video today. I'm going to show you the burning in a part 2, and then we'll do the feathers so you can repair these things. Hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake. Hey, I see all you guys later. Talk to you later, Jordy. Just Carve Rob. Bye, Pixie Muse.